I have covered my fair share of cases over the years. Therefore, I have dealt with a fair share of people. Some pleasant, some unpleasant. But none of them have given me a more unpleasant feeling than the spokesperson for Karmelo Anthony. And that is saying a lot, because we have dealt with the worst of the worst on this channel. Killers, people who kidnap kids, and none of them gave me the negative energies that this Dominique Alexander baby shaker is giving me. And I think it's because, you got bad people that are just bad people. They don't try to pretend to be good people. They're just obviously bad, horrible people. And look, we don't like those kind of people at all. But what I dislike even more, what I think is even more dangerous, is when you have horrible, terrible, disgusting people disguised as good people. And that's what this Dominique Alexander dude is, right? He's someone that tries to disguise himself as a good person, knowing deep down, and not even that deep, that he is a horrible person. Therefore, the energies that I get from this dude, it's just like nothing I've ever experienced before. It's a draining energy. Having to listen to him in his press conferences, having to read his words, having to look at his face, it's all so draining to me. That's why it takes me a while sometimes to sit down and make these videos when I have to talk about this dude. Because I absolutely despise him and everyone like him. Someone that has pretended to be a minister to try to take people's guards down. Someone who hurts women and kids but pretends to be a minister, a man of God. Someone that exploits tragedies but pretends to be a minister, a man of God. Someone who is trying to divide people racially but claims to be a minister, a man of God. There's nothing more disgusting than that, if you ask me, folks. So yeah, the energy that I get off this dude, it's really negative and it's draining. But anyways, we have to do what we have to do here. And he has released a statement now that Karmelo Anthony's family is under fire for secretly applying for a court-appointed lawyer. I guess they thought that they would fly under the radar while doing this. Either that or they counted on their supporters being too dumb to understand what's going on here. Because they literally asked their supporters for $1.4 million on the same day that they applied for a court-appointed lawyer. So that basically goes to show that if things work out in the way they want them to work out, they may not spend a single red cent of that money on Karmelo's legal defense at all. So they're basically just raking in money, simply, because their kid murdered Austin Metcalf. And they're not even going to spend that money on his legal defense. Well, this has upset a lot of people. Obviously, me and my audience, we're all laughing at this. We all saw this coming from a mile away. But Karmelo's supporters, a lot of them are starting to turn. Therefore, the fake minister, baby-beating spokesperson has come out and released a statement accusing everyone of lying, claiming that there's nothing to see here. But we've already debunked the lies that you're about to hear right now. Don't worry, but I still have to read this statement for you all, even though it's draining to read this guy's words. So let's just go ahead and hop in what he has to say. Stop spreading lies. Let's set the record straight. The amount of wild and false information being spread across social media is completely out of control. Karmelo Anthony did not submit a request for a court-appointed attorney. That is a flat-out lie. When a case is indicted in Collin County, the court system automatically generates an indigent defense form. This happens for everyone. Regardless of whether they already have a private attorney, it's a standard system process. Attorney Mike Howard remains in constant communication with the Collin County District's Attorney's Office and is still actively on the case. We don't know who started this ridiculous rumor, but it's clear right-wing journalists and social media influencers are intentionally spreading lies to confuse the public, create chaos, and attack this family. These false narratives are being used for clickbait, clout, and white supremacist agendas. Please don't fall for it. This is not journalism, it's manipulation. We are not litigating this case on social media. We are not responding to every video or post. We are not going to play into their trap. This case will be tried in a court of law, not in the court of public opinion. We continue to fight for justice, truth, and a fair trial for Karmelo Anthony. Don't let the lies distract you from that. So he's basically saying that, oh, Karmelo did not file this paperwork. This is all just regular protocol. This is just how things go. Well, we already know for a fact that Karmelo filled out the paperwork. We already know that for a fact. We knew that for a fact before Dominique even released this statement. So that right there is a complete lie. To say that, oh, he didn't submit it. No, that's a lie. We know he did. We know for a fact he did. But if you look into things a little bit, it states right here, requesting an attorney. A defense attorney is not assigned automatically. You will need to ask the court to appoint one for you. You'll need to fill out a written application and show evidence that you can't afford to pay for a lawyer. It's recommended to ask for a court-appointed lawyer as soon as possible. You can ask for an application from the magistrate, jailer, court clerk, or judge. Understanding the law. How to request a lawyer. This article explains some basic steps to take when asking for a court-appointed attorney in a criminal law case. Request help getting a court-appointed attorney. If you have not been able to request an appointed attorney, or if you have tried to request a lawyer but have not received one, Texas Fair Defense Project may be able to assist. So if you go and look, into how these things work, it seems as if Dominique Alexander isn't being truthful. It seems as if this had to be something that the family requested. Because remember, they already have an attorney, Mike Howard, working for them. So this had to be something that the family requested. And not only that, they filled out the paperwork. And Karmelo filled it out to where, hey, it basically only shows what money Karmelo has. So Carmelo's indigent status was approved. Because technically Karmelo is broke. He's 18. He doesn't have any money to his name. And the money that has been raised for Karmelo's legal defense is going to Karmelo's mother, I believe. So technically Karmelo is broke, even though his family has plenty of money and they raised all of this money. That's why Karmelo's indigent status was approved. But in order for any of that to happen, they had to go through a process that Dominique Alexander is claiming that they didn't go through. But in order for Karmelo to be approved, he would have had to fill out the paperwork. So nothing is adding up here. But one of the journalists that has been covering this case pretty closely actually spoke out about this and came back at Dominique Alexander. Here's what Sarah Fields has to say. False. This is not automatic. To request court-appointed counsel, the defendant needs to demonstrate to the court that they are indigent, unable to afford legal representation. This typically involves completing and submitting a form detailing the individual's income, expenses, and property. These forms may be obtained from the local county's website, the Texas Indigent Defense Commission's website, or directly from the court. The defense must request it, submit paperwork, and the approval process begins. Yes, for now, Mike Howard is his defense as listed on his court documents. This will not stop him from moving to an assigned attorney later on. Furthermore, because Karmelo Anthony was approved for indigent defense, it's likely he will not receive a salaried public defender, but instead a private attorney who volunteered or will be appointed and will be paid by the county using taxpayers' funds. it could actually be Mike Howard. In places like Collin County, this kind of defense is common practice. Private attorneys can request payment either as a flat fee or hourly, around $100 in court and $75 an hour out of court, with court approval. So, not only did Karmelo and his family fill out this paperwork, even though Dominique Alexander is acting like none of this happened, we know that it has happened because we have the documents. A lot of this is public knowledge. So Dominique is claiming that none of this is going on, even though we know for a fact it is, but it gets worse. This is where it gets worse. You see, right now they have a defense attorney. They have Mike Howard, okay? He's, from what I hear, a pretty good attorney. They're looking at a possibility here where they can keep Mike Howard. They could keep their good self-defense lawyer, right? Without having to pay him at all. There's a possibility here that because everything is working in Karmelo and his family's favor, there's a possibility that they allow Karmelo Anthony to keep Mike Howard as his lawyer without Karmelo or his family having to pay Mike Howard. Instead, taxpayers will pay for Karmelo's lawyer. Yes, you heard that right. There's a possibility here that no, Karmelo doesn't get a crappy court-appointed lawyer. No. That Karmelo gets to keep the same high-profile lawyer that he has. But instead of his family paying for it, because his indigent status was approved, and because, oh, we're so poor, oh, poor, pity me, somehow, some way, they can twist and finagle things to the point that Mike Howard remains Karmelo's attorney without Karmelo's family having to pay a single dollar to him. Instead, taxpayers will pay for Karmelo's lawyer. Now, if that's not disgusting, I don't know what is. Watching a family publicly raise over $500,000 after their kid murdered someone, watching them raise all of this money for his self-defense, and then ask for $1.4 million only to file out indigent paperwork claiming that Karmelo is broke and can't afford a lawyer. I mean, that's disgusting in itself. And then you think about the fact that this nice lawyer that they have, that they should be paying out of their own pocket, well, they may be able to keep that lawyer. They may be able to keep that exact lawyer without paying him, and instead making other people, taxpayers, pay the bill. So yeah, I'm upset by this information for sure. And it just goes to show that, I mean, there are forces at play here that are definitely doing whatever they can to help out Karmelo Anthony. And at this point, if this does work out for them, it's not even really to help Karmelo Anthony. It's to help his family not have to spend this money. That's really crazy when you think about it. Because so far, Karmelo has been given special treatment, right? Not expelled from school, out on bail, got to graduate. He's on house arrest, yet he's not at home. He's able to go other places. He's gotten special treatment. But it's a whole nother level of nonsense if we reach a point where, even though this family publicly raised money for his self-defense, the court still decides that, oh, we'll give you a free lawyer on the taxpayer's bill. That's insane to me. That we watch a family raise all of this money, and then it really makes you think, what's really going on here? Because it's one thing when you're doing little things in Karmelo's favor, like allowing him to graduate. It's another thing when you're doing things like protecting Karmelo's family's money that they just raised so they don't have to spend it on Karmelo or his defense. What do you get out of that? Are they going to break you off a couple of $100,000? You know what I mean? There's something even more shady going on here. As I'm talking about it, literally as I'm recording this video, my gears are turning, and I'm really starting to wonder, like, is someone somewhere along the line getting paid off? Because that's really weird for a family to publicly raise money for someone's self-defense, only to get a court-appointed lawyer, and then you wonder where that money went and who is helping them along the way. There's people in positions of power that are helping Karmelo's family. There were people in positions of power in the school system that helped him graduate and not get expelled. We know that the baby beater and his fake activist group, they have ties to law enforcement, judges, DAs, you name it. There are people pulling strings behind the scenes to work in Karmelo and his family's favor. And I'm wondering how much money they're getting in exchange. And I'm also wondering how much the baby shaker and his activist group are getting paid by Karmelo's family. Because right now, the focus is not on protecting Karmelo, it's on protecting that money, so that money can be distributed wherever it's going to go after Karmelo gets locked up. So yeah, really wild to see. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on that. But for now, you guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.